Welcome to another episode of the PPSS Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have a very fascinating guest. I got connected with this person online, did a deep dive, and wow, this person is absolutely amazing. He does a lot of great things, very, very successful in real estate and entrepreneurship and giving back. Hence, I'm very, very excited to have him here today. He runs one of the biggest masterminds in Canada. He also has lots of great success stories when it comes to real estate, where he started, then into entrepreneurship, and he loves to give back right now, loves to help others succeed, helps other people to connect with real estate investments, and also that support and accountability to make sure that they can grow. He is the host of the podcast Go Big to Give Big, the co-founder of the Reinventors, and also the Synergy Mastermind. So please welcome Mr. Randy Molland.
Wow, what an intro, Fong. That was absolutely amazing, dude. That was dialed in.
Hey, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for connecting. And I can't wait to hear some of your stories, some of your strategies, because you do such a great job in everything you touch when it comes to real estate, entrepreneurship, coaching, helping other people succeed. I'm sure we have a lot of great things we could jump into. But first and foremost, how did you become you? Like, you didn't just get out of school or wake up in the morning also, you know what? I'm going to be this amazing guy who's able to help others and succeed and go into real estate. What was that journey for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share that. And thank you so much for having me on the show, man. My journey started as growing up in I'll say lower income, middle class family where I had to work for everything that I wanted. My parents weren't able to afford to get me extra things. So I started working early on, and I was very lucky to get into the trades early. So I became an electrician at a young age, and I got my journeyman's ticket by the age I was 22. So I was already having quite a bit of success in my life by just being a ticketed journeyman at such a young age. I learned leadership. I learned how to, I'm 22 managing job sites of 50 and 60-year-olds, right? So I had to learn a lot of different skills to do that. And I was very lucky to be mentored along the way by somebody in the industry who kind of took me under their wing and supported me as kind of a young, hardworking electrician. Fast forward to when I was 25, that same mentor got hit by a telephone pole on a job site and didn't survive. And so I was in this really tough position where it was like, and he was 42 when he passed away. I was like, man, do I want to spend the next 20 years of my life working as an electrician to just get hit by a telephone pole and have it all taken away from me? Or do I want to go live my life and see what's possible in this world? Because I learned such incredible skill sets by being pushed into the situations that I was in. So like any 25-year-old that wanted to change the world, I just Googled how to make a ton of money and never work again. And in there, I found real estate investing was a feature that every, successful person had in their portfolio. And at the time, I had just bought my first house. 2 weeks before my friend passed away, I just bought my first house. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to see if I can go try this whole real estate investing thing. And within 6 months of starting, I had rented out my house that I had just bought, moved into my friend's, just a bedroom into their house. But I was making $500 a month on my property that I had bought in cash flow. And I was paying $500 at my friend's bedroom. And next thing you know, I had no expenses in my life and I had the opportunity to go do whatever I wanted to do. And so I just continued down this real estate investing journey. And basically what we created was a company called The Reinvestors. And what we would go and do is we'd go find houses that needed suites put in them or that weren't very well maintained. And with my construction background, I'd renovate them, put the suites in them, and then we'd go find what we call joint venture partners. They would fund my deals and we would go operate them and we would split the profits 50-50. So then we started just building that company up. And long story short, we got into some development stuff and now we're into some bigger development spaces in that company. And along the way, I created a mastermind for real estate investors here, and then also created a company now called Go Big to Give Big.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure that story resonates with a lot of people where I'm at. We're very connected with the oil and gas. So there's lots of people that doing pipelines and all that kind of stuff. And they're going, oh, I have to wake up and weld some pipe every single morning. And they're always thinking about how do I get out of this? And you were able to find out a way to get out. And how long was that process between you going, hey, I'm going to quit completely, not going to touch this stuff anymore, as an electrician, and going 100% full time on the real estate stuff?
Yeah, it was a slow, daunting process. I went from I was one of the top guys in my company for electrical because I had imagined I'd been a journeyman for 3 years. I was hungry. I was actually looking at buying the company I was working for with my friend that passed away. And so I dabbled a little bit in the entrepreneur space to learn a little bit of how to buy it. But I went from being one of the top guys in the company to asking for a demotion to just going and working on like high rises, just like literally doing nothing. But I spent 8 hours a day with podcasts in my headphones. I just kind of told the company, like, hey, my friend passed away. I don't want to be running job sites anymore. I don't want to be the go-to guy. I just want to be a guy in the company. So I was listening to 8 hours of podcasts a day while I was doing electrical. And then I was coming home and doing the real estate stuff on the side. But it allowed me to have a little bit of flexibility in my days to answer some phone calls and be a little bit more there. So that was probably about a year of building it in the background as I was working. And then eventually I started my own electrical contracting company to free up more of my time. And that was about 6 months. And I had some pretty good goals because a lot of people, I was a very sought after electrician. So when I went on my own, a lot of people were like, hey, we want you to do all these projects for us. So I was very lucky to make some quick cash in that 6 months. And then that's what actually propelled me to have the ability to go on my own after. So it was about a year and a half from when I first said, hey, this is what, where I'm going to go, to studying, researching, buying some property, going on my own, and then completely fully going self-funded as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Now, the very first property you bought was through like the traditional sense. That was going to be your long-term home for the rest of your life kind of thing, and you're probably going to get one house and that's it. So
Absolutely.
what was feeling of getting that second home, that very first investment home that you're going, you know what, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to flip, we're going to rent out, and all that kind of stuff that propelled you to real estate stardom?
Yeah, a huge thing was reading Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. If people haven't read that book, it's the #1 rated book out there for basically any entrepreneur. But the whole concept was using like learning about assets and liabilities. And when you own your home as a personal residence, it's actually liability. You have to pay for it. But when you own an investment property, it becomes an asset. It pays you. And so the whole concept of the book, in my mind, the easiest way to describe it is like, if you want to have a Ferrari, go buy enough rental properties, and it say it costs you $2,000 a month to own a Ferrari. Go buy enough rental properties that pay you $2,000 a month in cash flow, and then go buy that Ferrari, and then you pay for it through your assets. So when I bought that first rental property and started seeing some rental come in, and I was renting my house out and seeing some rental come in, I completely lost all value of what owning like a primary residence was. I still rent to this day because it makes me be able to be more liquid. I can move. I can do different types of things. So yeah, it was just a very big change in mindset, and stepping away from saying I need to buy a house and live in it and pay my mortgage down, to being like, I could go buy a dozen houses tomorrow. Somebody else will pay my mortgage down, and I'm not even funding them. I'm having people write me checks to go buy them, and then I'm getting 50% of the profit. Like, what a cool world. So it was really changing how we look at real estate, from just being a place to have a roof over your head to being an asset class to making money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely amazing. And I totally agree with that. Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first thing I picked up too. And that absolutely changed my life and started my real estate journey. Now, for you, that mindset shift is what allowed you to propel yourself to what you're doing right now. But that mindset shift also was something that did not resonate with probably the closest people around you, your circle of friends, family, and whatnot. Now, when you told them that, you know what, that house I just bought, I'm gonna rent that out. I'm gonna move into my friend's place and start renting for the rest of my life and do all this stuff. What was their initial comment? And how did you navigate through the people who told you don't do it?
Yeah, man, what a wild journey it was for me. One of the things that I did is I spent $15,000 on an investment training program after I started learning about real estate investing. I was very lucky that some of the people I was wiring for had rental properties. So as I started learning about it, I just leaned on them a little bit to learn a little bit. They kind of took me under the wing, were showing me a few things. And then I found about this training program, and it's that classic like guru, sign up for the free day, learn a little bit, sign up for the 3-day course, learn a lot of it, and then they upsell you into the $15,000 program. And I'm an all-in guy, Fong. I've seen from some of my content, like when I'm in it, I'm going all in, and I just bet on myself. I just believe that everything that I've done, I've had success in because I'm all in on it. So, so the hardest thing for me was I started to have some of this success, and people kind of like were like watching what I was doing. And then I made this $15,000 investment, and that's where I lost everybody. My parents, my dad, my employer, like my friends, everyone's like, Randy, you just bought your house. You just spent all your money, basically your entire life savings to buy this property. And then you've now kind of like taken a little scale back in your company to not be the go-to guy. And then now you're gonna go spend $15,000 on a credit card to
You're going
start
backwards.
yeah, like everyone's like, what if this goes wrong? And the thing that resonated with me the most was my dad pulled me aside and said, Randy, I didn't have that opportunity because I had kids too young. My dad had 3 kids, and unfortunately, my younger brother passed away from sudden infant death. And my dad missed a lot of his growth in the 6 months that he was alive because he was working so hard and he was trying to be an entrepreneur and he just couldn't get it off the ground. And he's like, Randy, you don't have kids, you don't have a family. Now is the time to try everything. So he said, the worst case scenario is that you have to sell your house, get your money back out, and you net out 0 at the end of the day. And that was the best gift anybody could ever give me, because I started playing from a net 0 balance of, oh, I can go spend that 15 grand, and worst case scenario, I sell my house and I'm in the same situation as a lot of my friends are that were in school type thing, right? And so that was when I lost complete control of all of my friends and my life. And I became very lonely, to be honest, because all I wanted to do was talk about entrepreneurship, self-development. I started getting down this rabbit hole of success and what it meant, and being 25, 26 years old and trying to reprogram. And all my friends are going out on Friday and Saturday nights. I quit drinking. I started eating better. I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning and doing something called the Savers by Hal Elrod. So like silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, doing all that from like 4 to 5:30 in the morning. And my friends just didn't understand why I was doing that. So it was very, very hard. And that is when I truly found the different chapter of my life where I got into some masterminds, where I started getting around like-minded people. And all of a sudden, that was when it was that big distinction of like, oh yeah, like if you want to play a higher level, you need to spend some time around people that are doing that and encourage it. And it just becomes normal conversation for you, instead of hanging out with some people that maybe didn't see the value in your dreams and want to support you.
Wow. Great, great story. Great, great elevation of what you'd have to do to become who you are. Because lots of people don't see behind the scenes. They don't understand, hey, we have to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning. We have to sacrifice the going out and eating out and all that kind of stuff. Just a quick question, because you mentioned you wake up at 4:30. Do you still do 4:30 in the morning?
Yeah, I'm usually between 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning now.
Was at the very beginning, was that a tough thing to do, or you're just, what, I'm up?
Honestly, it was actually easier back then. I was going through a lot. Remember, I just lost my best friend. I was just moving out of my personal residence that I spent my basic life savings to go buy. And it was this all-in mentality of, it wasn't one of those things where I listened to a podcast and they're like, you got to wake up at 4:30 to be successful. It was, I didn't have enough time in the day. I was still working a full-time job from 7 to 4. And then I was working after that, basically from 5 to 9. And so the only time I could actually get self-development, personal development, and work in was earlier in the morning. So I just learned this concept of creating more time in my day by not being a complainer and saying, oh, I don't want to wake up at 4:30 today. It was like, how lucky am I that I have the opportunity to wake up at 4:30 today, and I can get 2 hours of personal development, self-development, working out, and get my mind right for the day. So then when I go to work, I can listen to podcasts all day and be primed when I get home at 5 o'clock to actually do the work that I wanted to do. And so those 16, 17-hour days became an enjoyment for me. I actually loved waking up early because I was so fired up to get past the block that I was in, that it pushed me further to get there. So it was actually an enjoyment for me at that point, not a dread.
Awesome. Now, I know you work with a lot of people and you've helped a lot of people become successful, anywhere from people just starting out, thinking about starting, to people who are making 6, 7 figures. Now, for the people who are just starting out, what have you found to be the most common fear or the common obstacle that they have to overcome before they're able to take that first, second, third step?
Yeah. The biggest thing that I truly believe is people aren't confident in betting on themselves. They just don't believe that they're capable of doing it. And that is a gift that I always had that allowed me to take that next step. I was willing to invest into myself, knowing that the ROI on the back end is going to pay dividends. So that $15,000 investment that I made into that real estate coaching program, within a few months, we had a few $100,000 raised from that group, which in turn paid for over $15,000 worth of training that I'd done. So I had a great skill to be able to see the ROI on investing in myself or into programs. And that's something that I think so many people struggle with in the beginning is they try and do it themselves. They try and do it in a manner without any mentorship or support. And then they end up having failures along the way, which makes them less confident. And then they pull back again. So one of the biggest things I think people can do more of is trusting themselves and saying, what is my ROI on this investment? That if I go invest the $15,000, how hard do I have to work or what do I have to do to get that $15,000 back? Whether that's a coaching program, real estate, or a product and service, how much work do you have to do to get $15,000 back? In real estate, the question was, how many houses do we have to flip to make $15,000? Not a lot. We could take one project that usually gets 50,000, screw it up twice and walk away with 15 and still be paid out. And then I have a lifetime ROI on that investment. So I learned how to buy real estate for $15,000. After I get paid $15,000 from real estate, it's a lifetime ROI. If I leave real estate and never go back to it, I have a skill set in my repertoire to continue to buy. And so that is all part of the mindset it took to make that first investment. And for whatever reason, I'm gifted to be able to see that. And I wish more people had that ability to just believe in themselves and that if they put their efforts forward and continue to commit to it, they can make that same ROI back.
Right. And then now fast forward, you help all these people get to six figures. You help these people become very, very successful. What have you found is the most common obstacles for people making six figures? What's stopping them from achieving more? Or what are their struggles?
Yeah. This is exactly where I am right now. I'm in it's very fun to use a metaphor, like you're a caterpillar and then you go into a cocoon and then you kind of have to break through that cocoon, and on the other side of it is a beautiful butterfly that goes and does some really incredible things. I'm in the cocoon phase right now. I brought a bunch of businesses up. We're doing 7 figures in our masterminds, we're doing 7 figures in our real estate business, but we're trying to get to that next level. It's fun to get there, but now we're trying to unlock that bigger potential. How do you scale it? How do you grow it? How do you actually get past the next barriers? That's where I am. And it comes from the limiting belief that who are you? Are you actually supposed to be the next big thing? And I'm not talking about being Ed Milet or Andy Frisella, but how do you become the guy that does, multiple 8 figures and has multiple 7 figures in his bank accounts? There's an identity shift that has to happen, no different than when you stop hanging out with your normal friends and feel like you need to kind of step into an entrepreneurial group of friends. When you're making 6 and 7 figures and you're like, I'm having some success, but I'm trying to get to that next level, you have to go start hanging out with new people. So that's what I'm in the midst of doing right now, is I started hanging out with people where $1 million a month is kind of what their revenue goals are, as opposed to $1 million a year, because that's where I'm trying to get to that next level. It just comes at a very high price point and is very challenging and is very scary as a 31-year-old entrepreneur that is getting married this year, talking about having kids, doing a lot of things. There's a lot of other stuff that has my attention right now. And all I can think about is like, am I going to make, and I'll just share, one of these investments is $150,000 into a coach that I know will take me to that level. And it's that whole thing back to the beginning of like, am I willing to bet on myself for the ROI that instead of it being $15,000 that I need to make back in my deal, I need to make $150,000 back in this transaction. But this guy could go help me make $1.5 million this year in a new business. So it's the limiting beliefs that we force on ourselves that stop us from getting to that next level. Because I've had probably 10 people tell me that I should, like, I'm ready to step into it. It's just myself saying, wow, like, is Randy Molland actually the guy to do this? Am I actually going to be able to make it? What if I lose it all now? Because now I actually have something to lose. It's like it's the same concepts, but just at a different level.
Mm-hmm. Now, something else that you're very, very good at is showing people how to give back. And giving back is something that everybody goes, yeah, I want to do it. I want to do it, but I can't right now. For instance, they're just starting out in their investment career, and they go, no, I have to focus on this. I don't have any more to give out. I'm trying to survive on my own. Like how do I even give to other people, kind of thing, right? But you come up with strategies, you come up with different ways that people can implement to their lives that makes it easy for them to give back. And your podcast is one of those that kind of illustrates how easy it can be and how much of a difference it could be as well. Please share a little bit more about how people can actually give back and make a big difference.
Yeah, Fong, I'm gonna give you a shout out, man. You did your homework for this, and there's a lot of interviews that don't go as smooth as this. I just want to say, dude, like the questions you've asked have been phenomenal, and you actually did some homework. So thank you so much. This is great. This has been an awesome interview. Yeah, the whole concept here, which will tie everything together for your listeners now, was as I was having some success, the whole thing became what for? Why did I want to make more money? Obviously, I grew up lower income. And so the whole thing was I want to create financial freedom. But financial freedom didn't drive me. The idea of having the ability to go do what I want on my own and things like that, that's fine. Like that's everyone's dream and goal. But what did I need more than that? Didn't really drive me to want to continue to push harder. And I heard a podcast by a guy named Cole Hatter, and he had this concept, and it's called Thrive, Make Money Matter. And the concept was, if you want to live $1 million a year lifestyle, build your business to make $2 million, give $1 million away, and don't feel guilty about having $1 million in your bank account. And I was like, boom, that's it. That's life-changing stuff. That's what I wanted. I want the millionaire lifestyle. I just wasn't driven to do it. Now I'm driven to do 2 million because I can give $1 million away and then not feel guilty about the $1 million I had. And so I ended up going to a conference of his, being a part of his mastermind for 5 years down in California, every quarter flying down there and hanging out with some really cool entrepreneurs that loved giving back. And the principle of giving back just started driving our revenues. So for example, we had a meetup that we did for free. And again, I wasn't motivated to put a ton of people in there to come listen to me stand on stage and speak. It was like, slowly growing 20, 25, 26 people. We came back and we said, why don't we add a giving component to this? Why don't we do $10 at the door donated to Kids Sport Victoria, which is an organization that we liked. And so as we started turning this free meetup into paid, we started donating. So we started donating $250 a month. We're like, that's kind of cool. But then we sat there, and I have a business partner, and I looked at him like, you know what's way cooler though, and sounds way better? Donating $1,000 a month. Like, how many people in this world are donating $1,000 a month? I'm like, man, that's a pretty cool feature to like add to the resume. So we're like, how do we do that? Well, we have to put 100 people in this room. I started pounding the phones and sending emails to people saying, hey, come donate $10 and learn a little bit of real estate investing. And so all of a sudden, these people started showing up because it was like, I want to be a part of that movement where they're supporting Kids Sport Victoria. And because I'm here, I get to learn real estate investing. Then we turned that into our real estate portfolio. We said, hey, why don't we donate $10 per door per month from our real estate portfolio? So our fiveplex donates $50 a month. Our duplex donates $20 a month. Our triplex, 30, so on and so on. As we started doing that, the math became not so much how many doors can we put in our portfolio because we can make more money. It was, how do we actually donate more? How do we actually get to the, $500, the $700, the $1,000 a month in our rental portfolio? So then that scaled our rental portfolio. And that was the concept of how Go Big to Give Big was created, was that we realized that the bigger we go, the more we can give. And the tagline on our podcast is how 6-figure earners can become 7-figure givers. And the reason for that was, when we're 6-figure earners, there wasn't anything driving us to become a 7-figure earner. Much different. Once you've hit a little bit of that freedom, yes, it's nice to grow and scale, but in concept, it's hard to motivate yourself to want that. Not a lot of people can do it. Mm-hmm. But when you focus on that statement that Cole Hatter said of, if you want to do business, make $1 million, but give $1 million away, the concept became, man, if you were to write a check for $1 million tomorrow, Fong, how much revenue would you have to make in your business to make it viable to write a 7-figure check? We're talking, you're probably doing multi-million-dollar revenues. So now we're finding new ways to motivate people to create multiple seven-figure businesses by looking at how do you donate $1 million and reverse engineering that over a period of time so that you can scale your businesses out.
Awesome. That's an amazing strategy. I love how you take business strategies, mindsets, that creativity, and apply it to, okay, how do I make giving back to people with these strategies in place? And that's just a testament to your creativity and your implementation as well. Now, I know you have a comment on this quote that I hear lots of people say, and that is, you know what? Money can't buy happiness. What's your thought on that?
Oh man, that's my favorite question to get asked. So the concept of money can't buy happiness, money doesn't bring you happiness. Having more money doesn't bring you happiness. It's what you do with that money that can buy you happiness, right? If I were to say today, Fong, I've got you at all expenses paid trip to go to the Bahamas, and you're going to take your family and it's going to be great and you don't have to worry about a single thing, you're going to be fairly happy. So it's actually the concept of spending the money to be in a place that creates the happiness. The money in your bank account doesn't create the happiness. So we believe that money can buy you happiness if you shop in the right stores, right? So what we teach is, I created this new concept called a happiness bank account. And what it is, let's just use an example of, say, $50 a paycheck. Anybody can do this. It doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. You take $50 a paycheck and you just put it in a separate bank account. Let's call it $100 a month, $1,200 a year. What if you took that $100 a month and you went and bought happiness with it? So Fong, if I asked you today, the last time you went out for dinner, it cost you $100. What emotion did it bring out in you? How did it make you feel? How many people did you tell about it? Things like that. Mm-hmm. Probably can't share many experiences, right? When I'll share the example and it'll make a lot more sense. My fiance and I the other day took $50, went to the store, went and bought some dog treats, some dog toys, and went down to the animal shelter and gave it to the ladies down there. And they were ecstatic. They were like, oh my God, thank you so much. The dogs came out. They're like, these dogs never come out. This is crazy. Like, they're coming out to play with you and they just don't come out to see humans ever. And we played with the dogs and it was amazing. That was a few months ago, $50. My fiance and I went out for dinner the other day. I haven't talked about it since. Haven't even thought about it. Hasn't even resonated in me. So when we talk about, Fong, would you not go out for dinner one night to go buy yourself a story of happiness that will resonate with you longer? And we start stacking these stories of happiness and giving away with that happiness account. So every month you're doing $100 worth of happiness, buying a homeless person's socks, just buying Starbucks for random people, donating to a charity that excites you, anything you want. And all it's meant to be is just start to stack wins on top of each other about giving. And now you trigger your RAS, your reticular activating system, where you go and look for opportunities to give. And in a world where things are very challenging in a lot of spaces right now, a lot of people are looking for the negativity in the world. I'm looking for the positivity. Where can I make a change? When I'm walking down the street, I'm looking how I can spend my $100 a month to get my happiness. If I see a homeless person, I'll buy him something from that account. It's not that I'm taking it from my personal savings, right? That's the whole thing. When it's in a separate account, it's already allocated for that. And we allocate funds for going out and eating dinner, but we don't allocate funds for our own personal well-being, happiness. So that's what I'm trying to implement now with a lot of people, is creating this happiness account and just using it to do good in this world. Because as you do that, you'll be a happier human and you will look for reasons for good in this world. How can I help more people? What can I do? And if you have a family, it gets even more fun, because then you play with your kids in this game, where you start taking your kids out to do this kind of stuff. And your kids now get excited. And when they're in school talking to Sally, and Sally's like, oh yeah, my mom couldn't afford to buy me a pair of shoes this month. And you say to your son or daughter, hey, what do you want to spend this $100 on this month? And they're like, oh, Sally said that she didn't have a pair of shoes. I'd love to give her one. Now we're instilling a new generation of how we actually create philanthropy and giving in this world, that it just becomes second nature, or like common, that giving is just normal. It's not something you do when you're rich. It's not something you do once you had a ton of success. It's something that you build every single day as a principle in your life.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I
As you
love
can tell,
that.
I get passionate about this one. So
Hey, no, it's great. It's great to see the passion come out, and it shows how much you care about the message and how important it is. Now, when you were talking about the separate account and the how much money you're going to spend per month and all that kind of stuff, what resonated to me was that it's very common to a lot of very successful people is that you're very disciplined and you're very organized, you're very systematic. And lots of people go, you know what, I don't, I can't just dedicate my life to all these strict rules. How do I be more disciplined? How do you tell people that, you know what, try doing this first or try doing that for first so that you can build up that discipline in you to maintain that focus?
yeah, discipline is a very weird concept. It's something that, like, we have to drive ourselves to be more disciplined, but if somebody else is keeping us accountable, it's a lot easier, right? And so this is kind of a weird concept. It might not be the exact answer you're thinking, but I use physical fitness as a disciplinary for myself. So I sign up for a lot of fitness challenges that push me to a different level than I ever thought was possible, because it's unlocking the same portions of my brain to say, hey, if I can go, behind me is a picture here of an event I did at 29029. I hiked up Whistler, which is here in British Columbia, Canada, and we hiked up it 8 times and gondola down. So you hike up and gondola down, and you hiked 29,000 feet in elevation, which is the height of Mount Everest. I did that in 21 hours straight, no sleep, no stop, just hiked for 21 hours up this freaking mountain to get to 29,000 feet. But to get there, I had to train 4 months beforehand. That was the most disciplined I've ever been in my life, was waking up every day, wearing a weighted vest, running in 30-degree weather. But what also happened was my business followed that same discipline. My morning routine followed that same discipline. My eating was the best it had ever been. And so sometimes we need to find external factors to help us create the discipline, because we as humans suck at keeping ourselves disciplined. Another example of that is when you spend $15,000 on a training program, you need to be disciplined in order to pay that money back. You put yourself in like a do or die situation of, if I don't make this $15,000 back, I can't afford not to. You're probably more likely to get disciplined along the way. So I truly believe you can use external factors to create the discipline in any area of your life. And that even goes for my relationship with my fiance. The more disciplined I get in my life with fitness and business and other areas, the more disciplined my relationship gets, in the sense that I'm like, wow, we have to create time for date nights, because if we don't, it doesn't happen. Wow, we have to start meal prepping days in advance to make sure that we're eating very well. Well, that's led to us now creating a way better schedule for us to eat dinner together all the time. Things like that. So it does have the domino ripple effect once you start getting that discipline by using external factors for whatever you need to push you in that direction.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because sometimes when I go into those fitness challenges, you pay for like a 10-day challenge or a 12-day challenge, and you stand there and you're doing all these exercises, all these routines, and you hear other people say, you know what? I could be doing this at home. Why am I paying hundreds of dollars for doing this? I'm like, that's the point. You paid hundreds of dollars. Now you're committed, and now you're held accountable. And some of those strategies you mentioned is just to hold those people accountable to be disciplined with what they're doing. Something you mentioned was, it doesn't matter if you're rich. It doesn't matter if you're poor. You can still implement these mindsets. But there's a common saying that, you know what? The more money you make, the worse you become. And I'm sure you have a good rebuttal to that.
Yeah, that's good, dude. I want to touch base on one last thing that you said about the discipline stuff. This is why people hire coaches and consultants. And that's one of the biggest things is people ask me all the time, like, who would pay you to come in and consult them on how to give back more? It's easy. You just give back. Yeah, well, a lot of people want it, as we said in the beginning of the show. People want it, but they're not willing to do what it takes to get it. And so when you hire a consultant to come in and actually hold you accountable to what you say you want to do, that is when you actually start making some change in the life that you want. So for those that are listening, if you want something, hiring a coach can keep you accountable to the thing that you want to get, which is that $150,000 investment I'm looking to make, is just to a coach to come keep me accountable to go build $1 million program, as opposed to playing in the few 100,000 programs. So just wanted to put that in context for people, that it actually can be one of those things that, like, why would somebody ever pay you to give back? because it keeps them accountable. And that's what they want in their life because it brings them more happiness.
Yeah, to follow up on that comment, it's that mentality of, okay, I could create this program on my own, but then if I don't do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, if I don't do it next day, I'll do it next day. But then when you have to go on that phone call, it's like, okay, so how come you didn't start? Well, I don't know. Just you start feeling that angst, and you go, okay, I better get something done before I get on that next call.
Yeah, my coach said, hey, you need to, I've been trying to get on a bunch of more podcasts lately to share about the message. And he's like, so what have you done? I'm like, I'm just messaging some people and it just isn't working. He's like, cool. In the next 7 days, you're going to send 5 messages a day for 35 messages. Very simple and easy. It should take you a few minutes. I did that in 35 days. I got booked on like 10 podcasts. And I was like, man, I've been trying for months to get on podcasts. And all it took was one person to say, hey, send me 5 a day of all the messages. I want to be CC'd in every email you send because I want to make you accountable to it. And boom, there it goes. Everything, it just works like that. And it's such a crazy concept.
I'm glad to contribute to your assignment.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been great. I've been connecting with so many awesome people now, not just the podcast, but I'm connecting to so many cool people. So it's been awesome. To get back to your question about what does money really mean? As you make more money, sometimes people call them greedy. Some people call them, greedy capitalists is a very bad term that we hear. What I truly believe is money doesn't change you. It just exposes who you really were. So if you were a jerk before and you make more money, you're going to become a bigger jerk. If you were a philanthropist at heart when you started with $1 in your bank account, when you have $1 million in your bank account, you're still going to be that same philanthropist, same great human, same great father. You just need to understand that that's who you were when you started. So right now, your listeners might be saying like, well, I'm not ever going to be rich. So why does it matter kind of who I am? Who you are today is who you're going to be when you make that money or make that success, right? So if you start today to work on the human that you want to be, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars between personal development coaching, therapy, learning about myself to become the person that I want to be, that when I have the success, that's how I show up. I show up as the Cole, and I joke a lot. Cole's my business partner now in one of our masterminds. And him and I joke all the time. There's like, we don't want to just be 7-figure earners. We want to be 7-figure fathers. We want to be 7-figure husbands. We want to be 7-figure friends. We want to be 7-figure everything in our lives. And that doesn't just mean money. And to be those kinds of people, you have to do the work you don't want to do, dealing with your childhood trauma, addressing some of your quirks, addressing some of the things that have caused you problems in your life, putting a mirror up and seeing what masks you have on and how you show up and things like that. So the true statement there is money doesn't change you. It just exposes who you really were.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm sure a lot of people wants to work with you. And I'm sure you also don't accept everybody. So do you have a screening process that goes, you know what? This person sounds kind of like a jerk. They'll probably become a bigger jerk if they become more and more successful. So how's your screening process? How do you find out who best to accept into your circle?
Yeah, I'm very lucky that I'll say this. The first thing my dad told me when I got into any industry, in my electrical, when I started doing my electrical stuff, even when I was like 16 years old, he said, build your reputation, not your bank account, because then you'll be rich forever. And I was like, didn't understand it. I was like, whatever, Dad. All I knew is that if I believed what my dad said, I just had to build my reputation more than any amount of money. And so it's always been to me about working with people that care, that are going to build my reputation, that are going to support me. And so as I've been able to scale my businesses, I've only worked with the people that I want inside my company. And so I've turned away hundreds and thousands of dollars of investments because they're not the right people to invest in my projects. Steve and I've had people that say, we'll write you a check for $1 million today. And then we do a bit of an interview with them. We're like, we actually don't want to work with you. Your money isn't what we want in our company. For Synergy Mastermind, the mastermind we run across Canada for real estate investors, we only take 65 people in a year. It's application only. And we sit down and go through a full interview process. You can't just click and buy now to get into my program. We have to have a one-on-one because I need to know you're going to be the right human, because as I've shared, if I put you into my circle and we scale you up and we give you this success and you become this human, if you say I'm a product of the Go Big to Give Big, the Synergy Mastermind, and you become a jerk in this world, then I'm responsible, not responsible, I hold a 1% chance that somebody's going to value you as the same as my programs. And so now into Go Big to Give Big, it's the same thing. Anyone that wants to give just because it's a marketing ploy that can make them more money is easily sniffable out in how I do my interview processes. I genuinely only want to work with people that want to make a difference in this world, that truly believe this is the new wave of entrepreneurship, and this is the only way that business should be done. I'm 100% clear. I will only work with those people. You can come to me tomorrow and be like, I've got $2 million to have you consult me to put this into my business because I need to make $10 million next month. That's cool. Why do you want that 10 million? Because I want to go buy a yacht and I want to do this. And I know that if I give back, more people will buy my product. I will not work with you. It is 100% no. Doesn't matter how much you pay me. I am so in integrity with my reputation and what I want to create more than the money that I want to make.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And that's so important. And not everybody is the perfect fit. And lots of people don't recognize that. They'll just accept anybody and then realize that, oh, we made a mistake kind of thing. I got two more formal questions for you before we get to something more fun. When it comes to failures, right? Somebody like yourself who is successful in so many different things must have had some stumbling blocks or failed at something, but you've learned something from it. Are you willing to share one of the biggest failures that you've had, but also one of the biggest lessons that you've had?
Dude, there's so many failures, so many. I'll go into one, but just as a generalization, like I've launched 2-day workshops, I've launched different courses, I've launched different mentor programs where we've had 1 or 0 people sign up. We've ran live events where we're expecting hundreds of people to buy tickets, and we've had tens of people buy tickets, and we still have to run the event and eat the losses on them. Those are all pretty normal. One of the biggest ones right now is the real estate market is challenging. We bought a lot of real estate in 2019 and 2020, and then new construction development. And then now we're going through a lot of development, and our construction costs have gone up, and our prices have risen quite a bit, and our profit margins have slimmed down a lot. And when we talk about building your reputation, not your bank account, Steve and I, my business partner, are walking away from a lot of our profits to give them back to our investors so that they can try and be as whole as they want. And it wasn't the biggest mistake I've made, but it's the biggest challenge that I've faced as an entrepreneur. When you're sitting there 2 years ago going, this is our ticket to freedom, boys. Like we're on the way out, to now sitting here going that we're probably not going to make very much money from these deals, but we've got the experience now of how to be developers. We hit something that a lot of developers are saying they only experience once every 20 or 30 years. Sweet. I got that in my first 6 years of doing business. Now I get 20 years of actually doing business without facing that same challenge. What a weird world. But that is one of the biggest challenges I'm facing right now is walking away from a majority of our profits on our deals to give it back to our investors, to keep our reputation as clean as we can, that, hey, we're not taking any money if you're not getting the returns that we promised to you. But in return, next project I go to do, I want you to remember this because I want you to invest back with me, that it wasn't a bad decision on our part. The market just turned on us in an instant and we couldn't solve the problem. So that is one of my biggest challenges right now, something I'm trying to overcome mentally, something where I'm going to therapy and having support, because it is very challenging when you're having a multi-7-figure exit and then leaving with nothing. Anybody that's expected to make that kind of money and then not getting it, dude, I already spent that multi-7 figures over the next 5 years on these really cool projects that I wanted to do, and now I can't do them. So that's something that I'm facing right now. But the lesson I'm taking from it is how now going forward, I'm already 10 times further ahead than somebody who's starting today that won't have to face that challenge for another 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is amazing. And there's people out there complaining about that $2 or $3 loss. How am I going to deal with this? If I was to put you on the world stage and you get to send a message to the entire world, what is the message that you want everybody to remember Randy for?
Yeah. Again, I worked under Cole Hatter and I learned a lot of his principles and messagings, but one of my favorite things is I like to just share this. It's not the principle, but I'll get to that in a sec, is at my funeral, I don't want people sitting in the seats saying Randy was a cool guy. I want every single person fighting for the microphone. So there's a lineup out the door of people sharing stories of the impact that I made in their lives. And that's how I handle every relationship. Fong, I hope when we leave this interview that if I passed away tomorrow and somebody invited you to my thing, you'd say, wow, I did an interview with Randy and he absolutely changed my life. Like, the guy's crazy. The guy's insane. He has such infectious energy. That is how I want to leave every relationship or every conversation I go into, not just, yeah, Randy was a cool human. So what does that mean now by the message that I want to get known by? I truly right now want to be known as someone that is going to change the way that entrepreneurship is done in the sense of using it to do good. I want to change the way that greedy capitalist turns into a do-good capitalist, right? How do I start marketing this really incredible idea that we can add giving components to the beginning of any business? And now in concept, this is something that I'm fine-tuning that I haven't done, and this is the first time I'll probably share it on a podcast, is this idea that as entrepreneurs, we have the gift to go make as much money as we want, right? Fong, tomorrow we can turn up our businesses, and as challenging as it is, we have the ability to go make more money. If we have that God-given ability to go make more money, shouldn't we also be able to attach that to a charity and change charities with us so that charities no longer have to go out and raise capital? They're just funded by different businesses, and no different than how you use your money to invest or into projects that you like. We use our businesses to support causes that we like. So, hey, my real estate investing company supports Kids Sport Victoria. And as we scale it, so does the kids that we get to help. And Kids Sport Victoria no longer has to go out and raise money through events because all of our developments just pay them enough monthly so that they don't have to. That is what I want to be known as, the guy that went out and changed the way entrepreneurship was done, because we have these gifts and abilities already to change the world. Why aren't we attaching them to organizations so that they don't have to go out and fundraise and they can just do what they're good at of actually, Kids Sport Victoria is very good at putting kids through sport and getting them equipment and matching them. They're not good at raising money. That's not their forte. My job is building businesses and making money. If I donate $10 per door per month to Kids Sport Victoria, and I can get to $10,000 and start donating $100,000 a month to that organization, that will drastically change the way that their organization runs forever. And if I convince every other entrepreneur in the world to do that same concept, then we're going to be living in a very different time when this product comes out. And like anybody, I want that to live forever, that it just changes the way entrepreneurship is done.
Well, that is wonderful words to live by, and I can assure you that this interview has got my mind thinking of more things, and I thank you so much for that. Now, before I let you go, I know you got lots of lives to change and lots of impact to put on to other people. I got 5 quick questions for you before you go. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. You're stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life. No consequence.
Pierogies.
Hollywood calls and go, hey, Randy, we love your story. Very, very inspirational. We'd love to do a biopic on you. Who would you cast to play you?
I honestly don't follow movies at all. I'm going to say Matthew McConaughey just because I think he's an icon. I listened to his book, Green Lighting, the other day, and I just think he is just one of the greatest humans on the planet, just the way he acts. I love him.
All right. He shows up at your door and goes, hey, I got casted to play you. Boy, I'm hungry. What do you go to create for them as a dish? Your specialty.
Oh, I'm such a basic redneck guy. Like, to me, it's like just a really juicy steak. Like that is my go-to for when I want something that's like a specialty meal. It's just a really nice, juicy prime rib steak done medium rare.
Mm-hmm. You go, hey Matthew, we're let's go on a road trip. You jump in the car, you go drive for hours on end. And you go, hey, Matthew, I got this amazing song I love to listen to over and over and over again. You're never going to get sick of it. What's that song?
Yeah. I'm a fangirl of Thomas Rhett. I just listen to so much country music. So any Thomas Rhett song would be my favorite for sure.
Awesome. And my last question before I get there, give me a number from 1 to 4.
3.
1, 2, 3. So if you had to compare success to a jester hat, how is success like a jester hat?
Oh man, that is the hardest thing I've probably ever been asked in any interview. Success is like a jester hat it's very hard to get it to stay up straight because it's always going up and down, and it creates a lot of different things. But one thing that people love about it is that it isn't perfect. Nobody in this life is perfect, just like a jester hat isn't. So that's why being successful is like that.
Awesome. Well done. So that's how success is like a jester's hat. Any last words from you before we let you go?
No, Fong, this has been probably one of the best interviews, transparently, one of the best interviews I've ever done. You were just so prepared, so well done. The questions were amazing. I absolutely loved it. I'm just so grateful to be here. And if anybody wants to talk about giving back or philanthropy or go big to give big, just hit me up on Instagram at Randy Molland. It's the easiest way to connect with me or listen to our podcast, Go Big to Give Big. And we're just here to inspire more people to add more giving components to their businesses and make bigger impact in this world.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And for everybody out there, make sure you connect with Randy. As you can see, this guy is so energetic, so passionate about what he does, and he's out there making a difference. And I'm sure when you connect with him, he's going to make a difference in your life. Watch his content, subscribe to his channel, all his great stuff, his podcast, lots of great stuff there. So once again, thank you very much, Randy, for being here. I had a great time. I had a lot of fun. I'm more perked up now than I was at the beginning. So thank you very much for that. And for everybody, today is the day to lock your peak potential. We'll see you later.